Yo, what's going on, Sens and fellow hockey fans? So today we're going to be starting my Snipe and Sens weekly recap. So basically what this is going to be is I'm going to recap every single game that the Sens had during this week. So this week we only had 2 games. Next week we have 3 games, so I will recap those at the end of the week. I'm also going to give you guys my overall thoughts and opinions on each week as the weeks go on. We're also going to take a look at the prospect watch and basically see how guys are doing in the AHL down there in Belleville, as well as how they're doing in junior leagues and stuff like that. So basically that way you guys could get a feel for how our top prospects are doing, or ones that I actually have on a list. And we're also going to look ahead at next week and give my predictions and thoughts as well on who we're playing, and hopefully we could get some wins and all that type of thing. So this episode, basically, we're going to be going over Buffalo, that first game of the season in Buffalo, and then we're going to be going over the game in Toronto that just happened yesterday, and then we're going to give our overall thoughts on the week as a whole. I'm going to give like a grading system, which I don't really know if it's a good grading system, but I'm going to give some grades on my opinions and that type of thing, and then, yeah, we're going to get into that prospect watch and next week ahead. So first, before we actually get into our first game, though, I do want to let you guys know that this is available on video format here on YouTube, which you guys are probably watching right now. It's also going to be available in audio format, more than likely on like Spotify and stuff like that too. So if for some reason you can't watch the video, you could always listen to it on Spotify with your headphones and all that type of thing. So let's get into our first game of the week, which is against the Buffalo Sabres, where the Sens fall 4-1 on opening night. And now this game, though, was actually a lot closer than the score dictates. It was more than likely like a 2-1 game at the end of it, because the 2 empty net goals by Victor Olofsson at the end kind of sealed the deal for Buffalo. But I thought the Sens played a pretty good game for the most part. Like at the early part of the game, we were actually outplaying them quite a bit, but then the second we kind of fell apart a bit, and we took a bad penalty at the end of the first that kind of gave Buffalo a little bit of momentum, I'd say, going into the second period, and then they would get 2 goals within like a couple minutes span, and that basically lost us the game alone. But we still stuck around in the game for the most part in terms of shots on goal, and but yeah, we just could not finish on the power play. It seemed like our penalty kill did a really good effort in that first game. It didn't allow a single goal on 4 attempts, so I thought our penalty kill was definitely a strong point in that first game. Also, some strong points from that first game. I thought Anton Forsberg looked really locked in, and he definitely looked like his normal self for the last season that he played. So hoping that he could continue to do that type of thing in future seasons and future games for sure. Because if he could keep us in it, then we could definitely have a chance of winning some of these games. He stopped 32 of 34 shots. Also, I thought Eric Brandstrom stepped up both offensively and defensively. He had an assist in the game, and he also made some good plays along the boards and defensively. So definitely liking how Branny started off in this season, and hopefully he continues to get some confidence, because definitely we could use that. And if we have like a 3-weapon horse of him, Shabbat, and Sanderson in terms of offensive defensemen, that would be really good. So I was really happy with how Brandstrom played in this first game. Now, in terms of negatives, like I actually did mention already, the power play was not really that good in that game. It was 0 for 4, and I think it was a lack of finishing that the team really had that entire game. Like, we had chances. Like, Tim Stützle had like 3 breakaways, but he didn't convert on any of them. So I think we just had the chances, but we didn't have that like finishing touch to those goals and stuff like that, and that's unfortunately why we lost the game. Now, also, Craig Anderson was really good for Buffalo, so that also played factor into losing this game. So hopefully next time we play Craig Anderson, we could find a way to score on him a little bit more, because he's 41 years of age, but he is still a very solid goaltender, I'd say, for his age. And yeah, basically that sloppy second period is what cost us the game. We kind of had a little bit of loose coverage on the defensive end, and it allowed for a lot more chances for Buffalo, and that's probably why we lost the game in general. And yeah, that's basically what happened in that first game of the season. I thought it was a pretty successful game for the most part, except for that second period. Obviously, you're hoping a little bit more out of the guys into the next game. Okay, so let's get into the second game of the season, which was against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Unfortunately, we lose this one as well by a score of 3-2. Now, this game was a little bit worse, I'd say, of an effort than against Buffalo. Like Buffalo, we kind of hung around most of the game, and we only had that one collapse in the second period, and didn't play that good in that second period, but that's what lost us pretty much the game. But this game against Toronto, we kind of started off a little bit slow, but then we kind of got a lucky break and got a power play goal from Shane Pinto, so it's good to see the power play getting some goals early, because obviously that's going to start giving us some confidence going forward, and hopefully that power play unit can continue to convert. Also, what was nice about that Shane Pinto goal is it was assisted by Claude Giroux, who picks up his first point as a Sen, and also Jake Sanderson picked up his first assist on that goal as well, so great to see Sanderson getting some points here early on in the season. He was also really good defensively, so it was a really good game from Jake Sanderson. I think he had some good chances offensively. Like a little bit after that goal, he had a good chance in the slot, but it was blocked by Sandin, and it definitely stung Sandin with on how hard of the shot it was. So I thought Sanderson had a really solid game, even though we ended up losing. At the end of the first period, though, I thought the Sens also had some good pressure going. Like we had a good zone shift right near the end of the period, and yeah, it was definitely a good opening period for the most part. Like kind of hanging around with Toronto, but Toronto did definitely have more of a step up early on, and the Sens kind of like got some more momentum after that first goal. Now, I thought our penalty kill also did a pretty good effort in this game, even though they did surrender one goal. I thought like Tyler Mott and Austin Watson did a really good effort on the penalty kill, and that also kept us in the game for the most part, except for obviously we allowed a late goal in the third period on the power play for Toronto, and yeah, it was kind of a bad penalty take because Parker Kelly kind of interfered with somebody out of nowhere, and obviously that ended up getting us down 2-1. But luckily enough, Claude Giroux picked up his first goal as a Sen late in the third with like 5 minutes left. So this was kind of a little bit of a back and forth game late in the game, and then unfortunately Toronto would score with just over a minute left and take a 3-2 lead, and then we couldn't answer back with that. So it's kind of a bummer that we gave up a late goal, and we once again technically lose by one goal, because the first game of the season was technically, we could say, a 2-1 loss, but those two empty net goals made it a 4-1 spread. But this game at least was a one-goal game. And yeah, I thought it was another solid effort. It wasn't necessarily the best effort, because there definitely was some things that we need to do better in terms of team effort and power play effort and all that type of thing. So yeah, the positives I got from this game, our power play scored its first goal, almost had a second when Brady Tkachuk hit the post, so our power play almost did actually pretty well in this game. Our penalty kill also still looked pretty effective, minus the goal that we allowed on it, and Forsberg still giving the team the chance to win, even if we are being outplayed, which is good. So we just need Forsberg to keep doing what he's been doing, because if he could do that, then we have chances to win games all season long, I'd say. Now, the negatives from this game, I'd say we're still lacking in terms of finishing, like in Game 1 of the season against Buffalo. We just did not find a way to score goals, and we needed to definitely do that. When you have guys like DeBrincat who's scored 40 goals, when you have Josh Norris who's scored like 30 plus, Brady Tkachuk, you need those type of players to score goals consistently, and they haven't done that just yet. So hopefully with this upcoming homestand that we have this season, that this team could kind of find a way to score more goals, because we got like 5 straight home games, including the home opener for sure. Okay, so now that we've recapped the first 2 games of the season, let's take an overall look at what I thought this team did well at this week. So I would give our offense rating a D+. The main reason why I gave it a D+ is because big guys that needed to score did not score. So Claude Giroux scored a goal, which is good, but we needed obviously guys like Chabot, Batherson, Norris, did I say DeBrincat already? I don't even know. But there's a lot of good players on our top 6 that definitely needs to find ways to score goals, especially early on here in the season. So hopefully the homestand coming up will definitely give this team a chance. Now, I gave our defensive rating a C. I know a lot of people thought our defensive play in these first 2 games was pretty bad, but there was some definitely positives in terms of defensive players. So like Erik Brannstrom was actually pretty good defensively, I thought, during this week, so that ups the rating a little bit. Also, Jake Sanderson was good, but guys like Thomas Chabot definitely had a little bit of a rough first 2 games, so that would definitely drop it down in terms of rating a little bit. So I gave it a C, but obviously it could be a little bit lower if we want to, but I gave it a C in general. And I thought our goaltending, that was a because our goaltending was actually pretty solid. Forsberg gave us a chance to win in both of those games, but unfortunately the offense was the main problem, and the defensive play wasn't that great either, and that's what cost us these first 2 games of the season, I'd say. Now, for the top players of this week, I thought you might as well just give a little bit of a list on who I thought actually had a good week. There was a couple other players on this list that they could have thrown, but Anton Forsberg definitely was the main one. He gave us a chance to win both those first 2 games of the season. I thought Erik Brannstrom definitely had a good first 2 games, good defensively, and also he did have some good breakouts in terms of bringing the puck into the offensive zone, so I definitely give a positive to Erik Brannstrom. And then Claude Giroux, I'd also give a positive too, because of the fact he picked up 2 points against Toronto, so he definitely showed that he could fit along with this team, and hopefully he continues to do that with being a good veteran player. Really glad that we signed him this off season, and hopefully he has a good year ahead of him. And then Jake Sanderson also I'd give a positive to this week. He had a very good, solid NHL debut, and his second game obviously picking up an assist. And he's only like a -1, I think, in those 2 games, so he's definitely one of the better defensive players so far this season. Now let's take a first look at our prospect watch, starting off with our guys down there in the AHL in Belleville. Ridley Greig has yet to play a game, I think, or he might have played 1 game, but he has no points so far. Phil Daoust has off to a good start, 3 points in his first 2 games down there in the AHL. Yarventi has a goal and assist for 2 points in 2 games. Both those, I think, came in the first game of the season against Laval. Also, Lassie Thompson has a goal already, which is good. Sokolov off to an assist start, which is interesting because he's more of a goal scorer, I'd say. He has 2 assists so far this season. Cole Reinhardt off to a really good start. He had a really solid game number 2 against Laval last night. And yeah, he has 4 points so far in those 2 games. JBD has no points so far, but I believe he's been pretty good defensively from what I've heard. Cruikshank has 1 assist so far in 2 games. Lodin has 1 goal in 2 games, and Max Gannett as well has 1 assist in 2 games. So that's what I thought were our top players down there in the AHL. Obviously, there could be some other ones, but I will get to the goaltenders at the end of it. Next, we're going to get into our prospects in terms of like USA, Europe, in the OHL, and all that type of stuff, like the CHL. So starting off with Tyler Clevin, he has no points so far through 3 games, I'm pretty sure it is. He has not really done too much, but obviously he's more of a physical defensive defenseman, I'd say, in a sense. So hoping that he could pick up some points. I think he did have a goal, but I believe it got changed over to a different player, because I remember seeing on HockeyDB that it said that he had a goal at one point, but then it was washed out, so I don't really know what happened. Also, Philip Norberg is currently playing in the Allsvenskan. He's got an assist through like 6 games, so pretty good start for Norberg, and that's good that he's playing in the Allsvenskan right now instead of the under-20 stuff, which is nice. Also, Oscar Pettersson, this guy's off to a really good start this season. He's got 8 goals, 5 assists for 13 points on the season. I believe he also has like 29 penalty minutes, so he's been kind of doing it all for Rogel, which is good. So hopefully he can continue to do that and continue to get better, because obviously if he gets better, he could get up to the SHL, which is the top league in Sweden, and that would be nice if we could eventually sign him to an ELC. Now, Jorian Donovan's off to a pretty good start as well. He only played like a couple games because he got late over there, but his first game of the season, he had 1 goal, 2 assists, and 3 points, and he also had like a fight. So he had like a Gordie Howe hat trick in the debut with the Bulldogs this season. So good to see him off to a good start, and hopefully he can continue to build upon that. Tyler Boucher's got 2 goals and 2 assists for 4 points in the Ottawa 67s. Off to a better start, I'd say, than he was all of last year, so hopefully he continues to do that. Obviously, he's getting like some power play time as well, I'm pretty sure, this season, so hopefully he has a good year ahead. Zach Ostapchuk's only played like 1 game so far with the Giants. He's got like 1 assist, so he's off to a pretty good start, and hopefully he can find a way to get more offense going in these next few games. Thomas Hemera has, I believe, actually 3 points. I didn't correct this before the game for some reason, but 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points I put on here, but I believe it's 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points actually at this stage. He's been a little bit bad defensively, like he's a -5 in 5 games, I'm pretty sure, but then again, I'm not sure how good of a team Kitchener actually is, so but Hemera is more of an offensive defenseman, so he's not necessarily the best defensively, so should be interesting to see what he could do for the rest of his first full year in the OHL. Now, Chandler Romeo has no points so far, which is not really a surprise because he's not really offensively driven. Carson Latimer's got 2 goals, 3 assists, and 5 points in 7 games with the Prince Albert Raiders, so pretty good start for him. And Ben Roger has no points so far with the Frontenacs. And finally, we're going to take a look at the goaltending prospects. So Mads Søgaard, he was actually injured in the first game of the season. Like, he only played like 5 minutes with Belleville before he suffered an injury. Unfortunately, he allowed 1 goal on like 5 shots. So that's why his goals against is up to a 14.06 and an 800 save percentage. But hopefully he could come back and be healthy pretty soon and get back to where he was playing last season and the season before a little bit, I'm pretty sure too. Now, Kevin Mandolese got the 1 win on the season. There's 2 wins on the season because they did win both games, but Antoine Bibeau was in net and he's not a prospect. So Mandolese got a win, though, in the first game of the season, recovering for Søgaard. He had a 3.98 goals against average, which is not really the greatest, in an 857 save percentage. So Belleville's kind of struggling in terms of keeping the puck out in the net. Like, I'm pretty sure there was multiple games where they blew the lead and they ended up winning still. So Yeah, hopefully Mandalese could get a little bit better than that, because obviously those stats aren't really that great for the AHL, but who knows, maybe he'll become a good goaltender at some stage. I feel like his ceiling, though, is more of a backup goaltending role, though. Now, Levi Merlainen over there in Karpat has been really good so far. He's got 4 wins in 5 games this season, and he's got a 2.09 goals against average, mainly because he actually picked up his first shutout over there, and he's got a 921 save percentage. So Levy's been really good so far, and obviously he was pretty good, I'm pretty sure, in the OHL last season, so hopefully he continues to play good in terms of playing with Karpat, because this guy might be a really good goaltending prospect for us in the future, as long as yeah, him and Sogard could end up being a tandem at some point, who knows. And then finally, Kevin Riedler, who was one of our recent draft pick goaltenders. He's off to a little bit of a slow start in AIK. He's got a 372 goals against average and an 889 save percentage through, I think it was like 7 games. So he hasn't been necessarily that great, but he's a young goaltender. So obviously things could change in the next few seasons. And finally, let's take a look ahead at next week's games for the Sens. So the first game obviously is the home opener against the Boston Bruins on October the 18th. So 2 days after you guys are seeing this video or listening to this audio format. Boston is currently 2-0 on the season, so they've been off to a pretty good start. They actually did beat Arizona in one of those games, who's another team that the Ottawa Senators are going to be playing this coming week. The second game this week for the homestand, we are going to be taking on Washington on October the 20th, so 2 days apart between Boston and Washington. Washington is currently 1-2 on the season. They just beat the Habs last night. And I'm pretty sure the first 2 games of the season, one loss was against Toronto, and then the first one, I don't remember exactly who it was against, but Alex Ovechkin has yet to score a goal. So if Ovechkin still has no goals up to the point that we play them, we need to make sure that we could contain Ovechkin, because he's going to be hungry to score that first goal of the season. So hopefully we can contain Ovechkin in that one. And then the last game of this week, we are going to be taking on the Arizona Coyotes on October the 22nd, so another 2-day split. And Arizona is currently 0-2 because, like I said, they lost to Boston in one of those games, but you cannot count out Arizona in a sense, because they do have young guys like Dylan Guenther playing in their lineup. Also, Josh Brown scored a goal for them, which is kind of weird because I'm pretty sure he never scored a single goal with the Ottawa Senators or Boston when he was with them. So, yeah, Josh Brown's off to a good start apparently in Arizona. So that Arizona team might actually be better than we think, even though they are going to be definitely probably one of the worst teams in the league at the end of the season. So anyways, guys, that is the first episode of the Snipe and Sens weekly recap. So hopefully you guys like this type of format. I know it's a little bit of a weird video, but if you guys have any suggestions, opinions, thoughts on the Sens season, because if you want to get your comments featured in episodes, basically just comment throughout the week on specific games that you guys want me to put your comment up, and we definitely will get your thoughts and opinions into each week's episode. So yeah, you could also send me those on Twitter if you want to give me your opinions on Twitter instead of in the YouTube comments, because maybe you're listening to this on Spotify instead. So anyways, guys, that's going to be it for this first week's episode. So next week we will do our weekly recap on Sunday again, and it will be about Boston, Washington, and Arizona. Hopefully we can get some wins out of those games or some good offensive performances, because that's where I think this team needs to take a little bit of a step ahead, and hopefully also the defense could improve a little bit this upcoming season. So let me know what you guys think down below, and we'll see you guys next week.